start this hour in the Middle East, where Israel's military chief, Eyal Zamir, has pushed back against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to expand operations in Gaza. Sources say Zamir warned that a full occupation could trap troops and endanger hostages. But Defense Minister Israel Katz says the army must execute any government decision. The tension comes ahead of a new war phase as Netanyahu prepares to escalate strikes in populated areas. Israel says the goal is to defeat Hamas and free remaining hostages. Meanwhile, global pressure grows for a ceasefire amid mounting civilian casualties and humanitarian collapses inside Gaza. Meanwhile, a further 138 people were killed by Israeli forces in the enclave in the past 24 hours. The territory's Hamas-run health ministry has said, bringing the total death toll since the start of the war to over 61,000 people. The ministry also says that 771 people arrived in Gaza's hospitals in the past day, and a number of victims remain under the rubble as ambulances and Gaza's civil defence crews cannot reach them. We're now joined by our guest today for our developments from the ongoing Gaza crisis. Mohammed El-Dashan joins us. He's the director of Oxcon Fragile, and he joins us live from London. Thank you very much for joining us, Mohammed, on the programme. I want to first... pleasure. I want to first start with this rift, seemingly, from Netanyahu's figures. We have Israel Katz supporting Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to expand military operations in Gaza. How significant, however, is this public disagreement between Israel's military chief and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu? Does this signal a deeper civil and military divide?
Well, yes and no. I think it's important to realize that the two options in place are either what Netanyahu is saying of fully reoccupying the Strip, whatever that means, we can come to that, or the ongoing, the ongoing status, which, as he said, 135 people murdered over the last 24 hours. 93% of the people in Gaza at crisis level in terms of food insecurity, according to the IPC classification. 93. We're talking 39% of people have not eaten in days, according to the World Food Program. So that's the other option, right? The one option is a bigger military occupation. The other option that the Israeli military is defending is saying, well, we don't need to put more boots on the ground because there is no military activity to speak of. The casualties amongst the ranks of the Israeli army are very, very low because there are no military operations to speak of. So the army, which has a better view on the things on the ground, is saying this is entirely unnecessary and would put more people at risk, including the soldiers and the hostages. Obviously, none of them are thinking about the Palestinian population under their control. But what it says, though, is that even the army thinks that Netanyahu is pushing too far in the way of the self-survival. Netanyahu currently feels sort of buoyed by the fact that, currently Knesset is in recess, right? The Israeli parliament is in recess. So there's not much pushback. There's just the fact that he needs to appease his far-right coalition partners who are pushing for essentially more violence. The reoccupation of the Strip. They've been organizing guided visits for Israeli settlers to the north of the Gaza Strip, so they can see where it is that they want to steal next. So he definitely feels that he has room. Netanyahu feels he has room to maneuver and not much internal pressure. The fact that the army is pushing back is very unexpected for a lot of people, for a lot of observers. Me included, but yeah, with the caveat that neither of these parties is looking out for the victims of this conflict. But nonetheless, it very much signals that a lot of people within Israel, within the Israeli establishment, are getting really tired of Netanyahu.
Yes, indeed, Mohammed. As you've said, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is dire. We also saw an incident today of an aid truck being upturned. This was reported by the Gazan Health Ministry and resulted in at least 20 people dying. What does this say about the aid distribution method in Gaza? Obviously, international pressure has led to Israel letting some aid in. However, incidents like this, along with, of course, the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation deaths at the aid site, which we've now seen over 1,100 deaths reported at them. How would you analyse the current way that aid is being distributed in the Gaza Strip, and the feel of it, and how would you analyse the capabilities of that?
That's a very good question. I'll start with the conclusion, right? People wouldn't be fighting over basic food if there was enough of it. So the fact that people feel that, and not to justify anything, obviously, but if people are going to run towards trucks and fight over the scraps of food that are available, that just means that there's not enough of it, and this is deliberate, right? The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, humanitarian is such a wild misnomer, but let's go for it. The GHF, which is really an Israeli project, right? The idea of the GHF came from Kogat, which is the military administration of the occupied territory. So it's not an independent anything. It is very much an Israeli idea. And then the Americans were brought on board with it. And there are memos, internal memos that say that they need to distance themselves from the Israeli government, even though it is essentially an Israeli government idea and project. But putting that aside, what they did, for instance, is that there used to be several dozen distribution points of aid across the Gaza Strip. The Israelis have kicked out the UN, and now the GHF operates a total of 4 distribution points, right, for 2 million people. What that means is that people have to walk commonly 5 to 8 hours to get to those distribution points, right, as opposed to when things were under the United Nations, where distribution points were closer to people. Right? And then there's incredible reporting about this, which I strongly urge people to look up in the Financial Times. Washington Post primarily had done some really good work on that. It means that people will have to walk 5 to 8 hours to get to the distribution points, which will have opening hours announced a few hours prior of 30 minutes or 1 hour, and this is where they need to queue. And it is a disastrous system of aid distribution. But as someone commented, the cruelty is the point. That is the idea. That's not. It is, as you said, some global pressure led to the Israelis allowing a little bit of aid, but not nearly enough. Jordan, I believe this morning, mentioned that the Israelis have bombed the second aid convoy coming from Jordan. So there is no attempt at opening up. It very much is an attempt at quieting global public opinion, which has been rightly outraged. But this is a situation where we are. There are people pushing 2 million people to deliberate starvation, and we're talking the kind of damage. Even the people who will not die, many are suffering from irreversible damage to their bodies. So the cruelty is the point, and this is what the Israelis are doing.
Yes, Mohammed Eldeshan, thank you very much for joining us here on the programme. Pleasure to get your insight. And we, of course, here will bring you all updates that we can in regards to the ongoing war in Gaza. And we have another update from that